Rev Dore, Jacques Patlian, teaching the science of mind from Sarasota, Florida. I hope you're having a great day. Today we want to talk about the three great powers of mankind. Before we get into that, I want to preface it with a statement that I believe that most every one of us on this planet up to this point have been taught that we don't have a lot of power. We've been taught that we're pretty powerless people, that we are weak worms of the dust, that we're sinful, that we have a sin debt. Christianity teaches that we have a sin debt that we've inherited just by being human, and that only Jesus can wipe it out by dying on the cross. That never made a lot of sense to me because as a little baby, I didn't incur any sin. I may have picked up a few cents, but certainly wasn't born with it. Why did Jesus have to die for me? And would you please not die for me? I'd rather you didn't. I never understood that. Never made a bit of sense and still doesn't to me. Probably that's why I'm a Science of Mind minister. It does make sense. In any event, you need to get over those feelings. You are tremendously powerful. You are an expression of the Most High God, and you have the indwelling God within you. And they're one and the same. God is everywhere present. There's no place in the universe where God isn't. Indeed, we live and move and have our being within the body of God. The universe itself is the body of God. That's the evidence that God exists. But you know, God is not a person. God is not a being in the sense that we think of. God's body is its creations, the universe, us, the planets, everything. God has a mind. God is the great universal mind, the divine intelligence that creates everything that exists. God has existed before time. God has existed forever and ever and always will. And God governs by law. God doesn't punish. God doesn't reward. God doesn't play favorites. God rules by divine law. Such laws as gravity, such laws as thermodynamics, such laws as cause and effect, such laws as the law of compensation. There are spiritual laws and there are physical laws. And these God uses as his operating system to run the entire universe. And if you learn the laws and how to use them, it all becomes very simple. You don't have to beg and plead to a great Father in the sky who's going to punish you most of the time and perhaps occasionally reward you. So many people today treat God like a vending machine in the sky. If we say the right words, perhaps he'll give us what we want. We act like if we pray, he'll just give us everything we need. I'm going to tell you something's going to shock you. God isn't going to give you one thing because he's already given you everything you need to create heaven on earth right here, right now. And he gave it to you at the moment you were born. And here's the gifts he gave you, the three great powers of humankind. You are the most powerful beings in the universe, but you can't use your power until you know you have it. Now here you go. Listen to this. The three great powers of man are imagination, will, and intellect. I do it in that order because imagination is the most important. Let's take imagination first. Imagination is the power given to you by God that allows you to transcend your current situation, your current circumstances. You're not a prisoner of your circumstances, no matter how bad they may be. You have the power to travel to other planets, to travel to other countries, to be a person you've never been, to imagine yourself anything and anywhere, all without leaving your easy chair or wherever you happen to be. You can create new worlds in your mind. Now, yes, right now they're just pictures in your mind, but that's the first step toward making a reality of them. Without a mental image, without a picture to hold in your mind that you can believe in, that you can desire, that you really want, you can't create anything in your life. Your father had a picture in his mind of your mother, and he had a desire to merge with your mother, and that's why you're here. See, it even works at the basic level. There is an imaginal picture in the mind of everybody before something is done. Every cathedral started with a picture in the mind of the architect. Every temple, every mosque started an imaginal picture in the mind of the architect. Every great book started as an idea in the mind of the author. Every symphony, the tune was heard in his head long before it ended on a piece of paper with notes. Imagination allows us to transcend precedent. We can wipe away our past if we have the will and the desire to do it. We don't have to be prisoners of our past. Imagine a new one. You have the right to do that. And we create our future every day by the words and the thoughts and the choices we make today. What you do today is going to make your future tomorrow. So be aware of what you're doing. You're sowing the seeds of your future. You're impregnating it every day. So imagination is key. It literally creates our life. But you know, with imagination, I can build the greatest ship in the world and sail the seas. I can build the tallest building in the world. I can end world hunger. I can bring world peace. I can write the greatest symphony ever written, or the great American novel that people keep trying to write. Mark Twain wrote it. I think it's already been written, but somebody keeps trying to beat him. I can do all the grand things I ever wanted to be. On my mind, I'm the greatest teacher of science of mind in the world. And there are billions of people who listen to me all over the world. That's not true yet, but I believe it will be. And I'm going to keep doing this until it is. That brings us to the second great power, and that's will. Without will, imagination is powerless. Imagination is limp, flaccid, cannot create anything without will. Will is that faculty, that human power that allows you to get out of the easy chair, take the dream of writing a novel, and sit down at a computer and start putting the words on a computer screen and eventually on paper. Will is that faculty that allows you to sit down at a piano and start composing a symphony. And if you don't know how to play a piano or you don't know how to write music, we'll send you to a music school to learn. Will is that faculty that says, no matter how many times you tell me I can't do it, no matter how many times you tell me it can't be done, no matter how many times you throw the facts at me, I don't care. I will do it. It's the same will that enabled the American colonists in 1781, a bunch of farmers who'd never been soldiers, who had nothing but hunting muskets, not proper shoes, no uniforms, very little artillery, but they had a tremendous will to be free. And in 1781, they defeated the largest empire of the world, the final battle, the Battle of Yorktown, with some help from an ally, the French, but we did most of the fighting. They provided the Navy. We beat the greatest empire in the world. How? Nobody believed we had a chance. The facts were stacked so horrendously against us, there was not a prayer of us winning. And indeed, we almost lost 2 or 3 times. But we wouldn't give up. We had the will. Our will was stronger than the will of the British to subdue us. It's that simple. They really didn't have a lot of heart for it. They didn't want to fire on their own people because we were Englishmen at that time. It was a kind of a distasteful job for them, but we were fighting for our freedom. We had passion behind it. So you see, will won out. Will always will. Pardon the pun. Your will is absolutely essential in making your imaginal dreams come true. And now the third great power of man, absolutely essential. Because, you know, you can imagine castles in the air, and you can even move into them in your mind. And then you can have the will that says, I'm going to have it. But unless you learn how to go build a castle or go hire somebody to do it for you, you're never going to live in that castle. You need to have the intellect to figure out how to make it happen and how to bring it in to the material world. If I want to build the greatest building in the world, I better learn how to be an architect. I better know the basic principles of geometry and architectural design. If I don't, I'll never have a building, no matter how much will and imagination I have. At least I better learn how to find a good architect and put him to work to do it. I need to know how to think critically, to make good choices, to do things in a wise way. And that's where the intellect comes in. The intellect gives us the know-how, the skill set that we need to create what it is we're trying to create. So we have the imagination, which gives us the picture which is the vision that we must hold and believe in to get anything done, whether it's peace in our life, whether it's a husband or a wife or children, whatever our vision is, we've got to keep it dear in our hearts and our minds. And then the will to follow through no matter what. However tough it gets, keep going. And then the third one, the intellect, the cunning, the smarts to sit down and figure out, now that we've got the picture, now that we have the will, how do we make this happen? How do we get this thing off the ground? The Wright brothers actually had to build an airplane to fly, in other words. They had the will, they had the imagination, they had the dream. They had to put the thing together and try time after time after time until it finally flew. Thomas Edison had the will and the imagination, had no education, was poor, was deaf in one ear, but he had to work 10 years to develop the light bulb. Filament after filament after filament failed, and he finally found tungsten, the magic one, and it worked. We have light bulbs today. He invented more things that we use in our daily lives today than almost anybody in the world. He made modern life possible, from electricity to movies, recorded music, movie projectors, you name it. It's amazing what he invented. With no education. But he had will, he had imagination, and he was smart as a whip, and he knew how to make things work. That's how you create your reality, ladies and gentlemen. With imagination first. Don't ever think imagination is just wool gathering or flights of fancy. It is, unless you empower it with will. Something you want to do, have the will to do it. And then have the intellect to sit down and figure it out and be willing to do the work. Use the three great powers of mankind. You can transform your life in an amazingly short time. You cannot be beaten. You cannot be defeated unless you allow it. You've been given all the power in the universe. Get to work and use it. God has given you joy, peace, happiness, every good thing. And I bless you. Be warm and safe and happy. If you haven't got your Science of Mind yet, get it. The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. It's one of the greatest books you'll ever buy. Amazon.com. You can download the copy to your computer for $3.95. You can buy the paperback edition for about $10. The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. It's what I'm teaching you. And you've got it all in one book that you can read over and over and over. It'll be your best friend. Get one today. And so it is. Until we meet again, this is Dore Patlian saying, see you next week.